Hey friends, Kevin here, and today we're going to talk about using a microwave in your travels, in your van or whichever vehicle you're traveling in, cargo van, minivan, truck, whatever it is that you're using to do some form of van life or go on long trips. What you're going to need equipment-wise to be able to run one of these. So let's get to it. Now, you have two things with a microwave. One, it's a very high wattage device. And number two, it's generally not going to be on for a long period of time, probably 3 to 5 minutes on average. So we want to balance those two things out as far as your power requirements and how you're going to need to do that in a van. Number one, if you're going to campgrounds, sometimes you're going to have full electric hookups, or if you're going and staying like at friends' houses or relatives in your travels, in their driveway or yard or whatever, you are probably going to have access to some electricity, in which case all you need is a good heavy-duty extension cord. And you've heard me say before, I recommend everybody carry one of these. A 25-foot extension cord is generally going to be fine for van life. You want it to be a heavy-duty extension cord, which means it's either going to be red-colored or orange-colored. And that's going to be well enough. You can plug that in, use any microwave that you happen to have. Now, as we get into these other options, a smaller wattage microwave is going to be better for you. And that's generally going to also mean a little bit smaller size. Now, when you're looking at microwaves in stores, you're generally, and by small, I mean 700 to 900 watts that it's running. When you get into a little bit bigger ones and fancier ones like this particular one, you're going to be running 1100 or 1200 watts. That's going to change out what you can do. So you're going to be running a little bit less time with this higher wattage cook time, but it's going to take more powerful equipment to allow you to run it at all. An example of this, and the next way to do this is going to be with one of these portable power stations, these solar generators, whatever you want to call them. They're made by all kinds of different companies, Jackery being one of the most popular. And when you go down the list, there's a Jackery 240 and a Jackery 500 and a Jackery 1000. And the base part of that is those numbers are the wattage that you're able to pull consistently out of a device like that. And as a quick example, the first little pack that I have, and I've had 3 or 4 years and still use to power my fan and stuff, is this one. This thing is rated for about 250 watts or so. So this is not going to run a microwave or any other high draw device, even though it has a plug-in right there for it. Just because you have something to make the electrical connection into does not mean you can safely run it when you're dealing with electronics that you're going to be using in a van. Unlike at your home, where anything like this you can plug into a wall socket and you are good to go. With all of these different solutions on the road, you're going to have to know the wattage of the device you're trying to power, and you're going to have to know the maximum wattage of the device you're using to plug it into so you don't blow something up or melt something down. With that said, with a Jackery 1000 or a Goal Zero 1000 or something that's 1000 watts consistent, you can run a microwave. You could not run this microwave because this one is about 1100 watts. But you could run one of the microwaves, the smaller microwaves, that's in the 700 to 900 watt range. And even with one of those portable power stations, it's going to work fine. It will probably draw 10 or 15% of a fully charged battery if you ran a microwave on it for, say, 6 or 7 minutes. That's sitting there pulling that much power constantly, but you can do it. So Jackery 1000, Goal Zero 1000, the lower end ones are simply not going to power a microwave. So that brings us into the next option for your van, whether it's a minivan, cargo van, whatever, and that is going to be solar. If you have solar and you have a battery that it is going into, separate from your starting battery, somewhere in your van you have your solar panel feeding into and charging your house battery, as it's called, high drain battery, then you can run a microwave off of it with an inverter. And again, your inverter that you're using, which is going to convert that 12 volt out of that battery into the 110, 120 style that you need to run household devices with a plug like this, you're going to have to make sure you have one with enough wattage. So if you're trying to run a 700 to 900 watt microwave, you need an inverter that's at least 1,000 watts. If you're trying to run a microwave that's 1,100 watts, you're going to be looking for an inverter, again, that can do more than that consistently. So you're probably going to be looking at a 1,500 watt or more inverter. And again, it is fine to do this with your battery, even if you just have the one battery that your solar and stuff is feeding into. Even though it's a really high drain device, it's fine because it's only going to be on, again, for 3 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever at a time. And I will link down in the description the correct inverter and the correct parts that you need in order to be able to do this stuff. Now, option number 3 for the people who don't have a full solar setup and haven't paid $1,000 or more for a battery pack that will be able to do this is to also use an inverter, the same type of inverter, but you're going to use it on your starting battery, which is the battery under the hood of your van. Now, there are some kits to where you can hardwire this, and that's a little more intrusive because you're going to be trying to have wires yay big around that are, the size of your finger that you're going to have to route through the firewall and through the van, but it can be done. The other way to do it is to just take your inverter, and a lot of these inverters will come with alligator clips, big ones, just like jumper cables for batteries. So when you get ready to do this, you're going to go out, you're going to pop the hood, you're going to hook these to the battery, shut the hood down, not clamped all the way, but just down, so you're not dealing with being over there and around moving parts where something bad can happen. And you want your inverter, which will have a few feet of line, you want it kind of hanging out from under your hood area where you can access it outside the van. At that point, you're going to get in your van and you're going to start your van up and let it run. Then you can plug your high drain device into that inverter and use your microwave to make your meal or whatever you want to do. Is that a little more hassle? Yeah, because it involves getting it out of the van, and if you're pulled up to a picnic table somewhere, you have a little table with you to set the microwave on. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. You just have to figure out, like everything else, you have to kind of figure out what's going to work for you. What's going to work well for you that you can live with, depending on the money that you're spending. So again, I found, when I'm in the big van traveling, it's nice to have that microwave, and, I can stop, I can grab a couple of nukeable things sometimes. If I have leftovers from somewhere I've gone out to eat, I can pull those out of the fridge, throw those in the microwave. But then again, I could just as easily take that stuff and throw it into a skillet and heat it up over on a propane burner for a couple of minutes. So it just depends on what you want to do and what you're happy with. But I've seen many, many people, even in minivans, go out with microwaves, taking a microwave oven with them. So it certainly can be done. You just have to decide which one of these ways I've talked about that you want to do it yourself. As always, any questions you have, be sure to put down in the comment section. You can also let me know if you think I'm right, if you think I'm wrong. I'm sure there'll be some people post comments telling me that of all these other more complicated ways things can be done, but generally people starting out don't want to get any more complicated than this. And that's what I'm trying to help people do, is get started doing this to where they can go out and enjoy themselves. You'll see some other stuff popping up here for other videos that I've done recently you may find useful to you. Down in the description, there'll be links to about the last 30 or 40 videos I did that you may find useful to you. And we'll talk soon.